Hello and welcome to Calypten News, your one-stop for receiving short and precise global updates. I am Adam, and let's start with today's briefing. Today on Calypten News, Russia takes full control of Ukraine's Luhansk region. US Senate vote on Trump's $3.3 trillion bill continues. Trump push for regulatory reform highlights Treasury put. South Africa seeks extension of Trump tariff deadline. India near interim trade deal with US. Asian factories slowed by US tariff risks. Dollar wobbles as investors await Trump's tax bill. Gold firms on weaker dollar. India's steel imports dropped 27.6% in April to May. Dollar drops versus yen and franc amid US fiscal worry. Oil steady as investors watch OPEC Plus decision. Major Gulf markets edge higher as investors assess Trump's tax bill. Copper's tariff high fails to boost other metals. India sends geologists to Zambia for cobalt, copper. US power pollution up on increased coal use. Let's begin, but before we start, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Russian-backed officials declared full control over Ukraine's Luhansk region after months of intense fighting. This marks a major territorial shift in the ongoing war. The seizure strengthens Russia's eastern front but escalates global tensions. Ukrainian forces confirmed strategic withdrawals, while international bodies warned of heightened humanitarian crises and potential expansion of Russian military objectives. The US Senate's marathon vote on Trump's massive $3.3 trillion fiscal bill extended into a second day. The legislation proposes sweeping tax cuts, infrastructure spending, and social program rollbacks. It faces stiff opposition from Democrats over fiscal sustainability and inequality concerns. The vote's outcome will significantly impact global markets and US international trade positioning. Trump's proposed regulatory reforms aim to loosen banking restrictions, raising concerns over a potential Treasury put, a safety net for financial markets. The proposals would relax capital rules for regional banks and limit the Federal Reserve's oversight powers. Critics argue this could increase systemic risks, while supporters claim it would spur credit growth and investment. South Africa is negotiating with the US to extend the deadline for Trump's new tariffs on steel and aluminum imports. Pretoria hopes to secure more favorable trade terms amid growing fears of losing key market access. The proposed tariffs, part of Trump's protectionist strategy, could severely impact South African exports and bilateral trade. India is close to finalizing an interim trade agreement with the US, expected within days. The deal aims to reduce tariffs on select goods, including Indian textiles and American agricultural products. It comes as both nations seek to stabilize trade ties amid Trump's broader tariff campaign. Sources suggest the pact could preempt larger trade disputes. Asian manufacturing growth decelerated in June due to fears over new US tariffs. PMI data showed contractions in South Korea, Taiwan, and Malaysia, with China's factory activity barely expanding. The US tariff threats against Asian electronics and automotive sectors disrupted supply chains and dampened export orders, raising concerns about regional economic resilience. Global stocks rose slightly while the dollar weakened as investors awaited the US Senate's decision on Trump's $3.3 trillion tax bill. The legislation could significantly reshape fiscal policy and global trade. Uncertainty over impending tariffs and regulatory shifts kept markets volatile, with particular attention on potential dollar depreciation and US growth trajectory. Gold prices strengthened, reaching $2,360 per ounce, as the dollar fell amid escalating US trade uncertainty and pending tariff deadlines. Investors sought safe haven assets while awaiting clarity on Trump's fiscal bill. Concerns over U.S. deficit expansion and global supply chain disruptions bolstered gold's appeal, with analysts projecting continued demand if fiscal instability persists. India's finished steel imports plummeted 27.6% year-on-year to 780,000 tons in April to May 2025. Imports from China and Japan declined sharply amid tariff uncertainties and increased domestic production. The Indian government's Make in India policies and rising local demand contributed to the drop. However, concerns remain over potential price volatility and raw material shortages. The US dollar fell to its lowest levels in 2 years against the Japanese yen and Swiss franc as global investors reacted to Trump's aggressive fiscal proposals. The dollar's broad weakness reflects market anxiety over growing US debt and potential inflationary pressures. Safe haven currencies gained sharply, driven by capital flows away from dollar assets. Oil prices held steady near $85 per barrel as investors awaited the July 6 OPEC+ meeting, where production levels for the next quarter will be set. Speculation about increased supply amid weaker global demand tempered price movement. Market players also closely monitored US-China trade tensions, which continue to weigh on future oil demand projections. Saudi, UAE, and Qatar stock markets gained modestly as investors tracked US fiscal policy developments. The $3.3 trillion tax bill could stimulate American growth, potentially benefiting Gulf oil revenues. However, uncertainty about US tariffs and Middle East trade partnerships kept gains limited. Regional banks and energy stocks led the modest rallies in these markets. Copper prices surged to a one-year high of $10,200 per ton amid speculative buying linked to US tariff uncertainties. However, other base metals like aluminum and nickel saw limited gains, suggesting a narrowly focused market rally. Analysts noted that copper's supply-demand dynamics remain tight, but broad industrial sentiment is weighed by global trade instability. India dispatched geologists to Zambia to explore new copper and cobalt deposits, aiming to secure critical minerals for its electric vehicle and renewable energy sectors. The move follows China's increasing dominance in African mining. India seeks to diversify its supply chain and reduce import dependency as part of its long-term strategic resource planning. U.S. power sector pollution rose 4.2% in the first half of 2025 due to increased coal usage amid high natural gas prices. The shift raises concerns about the country's climate targets, as coal plants return to the grid to meet summer electricity demand. Environmentalists criticize the trend, urging faster renewable energy transitions. Thanks for watching. Which news did you like the most today? Let us know in the comment below. Hit the bell icon to receive regular updates.